All right, ladies, let's start. I guess it's 4:05, so we're just gonna keep it, very to the point and refreshing and insightful sessions of Knowledge Bites. So yes, welcome back, everyone. Those who joined us yesterday as well. No, this is a series that we've started for these 6 days, celebrating International Coaching Week 2025 with International Coaching Federation, as we are all ICF certified coaches, trained under ICF courses, and we love, training, coaching, and mentoring at Inspiration Station. And celebration of coaching is a must. When everyone talks about it, we talk about it too. We spoke about a very an insightful conversation yesterday. I had a lot of fun doing it with my lovely team, the panel discussion, and it will be posted today on our YouTube channel. So do head on, and we will be posting that shortly on the community. So do not miss that. Today we are back with a sneak peek of an interesting workshop that me and Rabia have piled up together. And both of us being, people who are really focused on emotions and being coaches, I think this is something that's very close to, both of us I was telling someone the other day as well. Emotions is something I cannot just avoid speaking of emotions when I'm doing my work as a coach as well, even if it's not in the form of a psychoanalyst or a therapist. Emotions are something we are all created on. It makes us human. And we bring you today a neurosomatic journey to emotional resilience. And when I talk about resilience, the first person who comes to my mind is Rabia. Rabia, tell me about emotional resilience. We all know we had conversations, our community is aware of how beautiful you are as a person, also an emotionally resilient person. So and you are a resilient focus coach as well who works with people with that. So a little bit on, what is emotional resilience for everyone who's listening.
I think before I explain emotional resilience, the misunderstanding around resilience, we are told to be told to be strong, right? And I think that is one of the counter arguments to emotional resilience. When somebody says emotional resilience, it's adaptation. I understand that it's adaptation. Um, it's bouncing back. It's about regulating yourself in a situation. It's about maintaining yourself in a situation, not just being strong and bulldozing through. So I think to be able to develop um, awareness of how to be is what emotional resilience means to me, and if I were to kind of condense it in a way.
Beautifully shared there. For me, also, emotional resilience looks like, so we're all human. And as we always say when we speak of emotions, there's nothing wrong or right in terms of emotions. There's no good or bad emotion, right? And this is something we'll focus more on inside our workshop. For me, how does emotional resilience also looks like is, that ability to just bounce back up, the time taken, when it shortens. And what I've seen, Rabia, for myself in my life journey till now, in my, I would say, the work, the self development work that I've done on myself, because I believe that, if you can't do that work on yourself, you will not be able to support others in the same journey. Um, so for me, it has always, what I've seen till now is that every time I, fall, right, the time that I take to get back on my knees up has become shorter. And this is where I think that I'm developing that emotional resilience in myself. And, that's where I see it strengthening in myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Anne, a long time back when we were training to be practitioners of emotional intelligent practitioners, remember, and exchanging stories. And that becomes such a big ground for empowerment for each other when you're sharing stories. And, I remember you talking about the stages of flexibility and management and how you've kind of overcome challenges, and everybody has challenges which are specific to their own relativity, their own individuality, and their own life systems, right? And like you said, something that we would be bringing to our workshops is how what could be the core elements of our personal emotional resilient journey, and how we could conquer and make use of understanding and identifying them.
True. So that is the good news that it's a trained response. You can train yourself. So now it's some people are born resilient also, by the way. So it's inbuilt in them, right? I know personally people as well, but then that's the good part as well that even if you're not born with it, and I think Rabia, at so many points, life makes you learn that. Do you agree?
It does. It does. Of course it does. But are we open to
Mm.
learning? I think
Hmm.
that's a very, very interesting part for me, and because we would be practicing it in our daily routine, we would be experiencing it, but are we open to it? Is our heart, mind, and gut open to it? You know, and that's what happens when we manifest the openness to something. We're able to kind of, take it on and build on it.
That's an interesting aspect, actually, Rabia. So, how would one create? Because anybody who will be attending the workshop will be someone who needs to be open and ready for that, right? So, how does one create that openness, that readiness to receive?
Absolutely, absolutely. Ask yourself, ask yourself where you are. Ask yourself, are you at a place that you had envisioned yourself to be, or are you lacking from it? Did you expect yourself to be more cognitively challenged, or did you expect yourself to be more emotionally regulated? And if you're not, then what kind of questions are you asking yourself? Are you stuck in a rhythm of challenges, or are you wanting to get out there? So the readiness has to come from the individual themselves, and the openness and the readiness to explore yourself. I think that the idea is, do I want to deep take a dive into my own awareness and build on it?
True. I like that. And, then there are just for those who are listening, that the workshop will definitely also give a few more tools to, build that awareness, to get into that. We have a very interesting framework, which is very uniquely designed by us, which is pause, pivot, and power. So that will be shared, and, that. So Rabia, before that, let's just focus on something which is, the emotional intelligence, which is such a buzzword these days, right? So everywhere you see leadership and self-development and whatever in relationships. And of course, it is that, ultimate thing to have, right? As a skill, as something that, can be a game changer. So, um, but then, and I'm asked that quite often, and I'm sure you are asked as well, because, being someone who's a constantly someone who works with emotions, and, I get asked, do you ever get triggered? Or you're just, you seem to be a very calm and composed person all the time. Do you ever get triggered? So the question is, why do the best of us still get triggered if we have done so much of work?
We are humans. I mean, I want to take a moment to just welcome VP, because I mean, getting all excited seeing him. But coming back to the identification of ourselves as humans, and not some supernatural beings, right? It is the idea that, if I am a person, if I'm a mother, I'm a woman, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm wearing all of these different caps, I'm a professional, but I have my moments of low, I have my moments of high, I have my moments of anger, of irritation, of frustration. And if there would be some moments that I am able to regulate myself, because I would be doing that as an adult, as a person who understands how to regulate my nervous system, my behaviors. And then there are moments where I feel pushed over the edge, or that my boundaries are being tested, or it's just not a fun place for me to be.
Hmm.
And that would mean me respecting and regarding my emotions, whether it is anger, joy, frustration, uneasiness, sadness. Um, and for me not to um, give them the respect and space would be me doing a disservice to myself. That is my understanding of as a human if I were to experience triggers.
Mm. And very rightly marked there, Rabia. And I would like to highlight a little bit above that as well. That, how when we in therapy and Freud said that, the unexpressed emotions never go away, they just hide under the surface, right? So, and every emotion, we are aware of that. We get aware of that when we do a deeper level coaching as well, by the way. It's not just in therapy. Sometimes we uncover that as coaches as well. When we do a lot of deeper and reflective work, we get to understand that, always there's an emotion behind an emotion as well. And why is that? Because it has been, just shooed under the carpet and was not dealt with, was not named, right? Was not acknowledged, like you said, right? So, like said, uh, we all have a working amygdala, which is the emotional center of our brain, right? And it will get hijacked, it will get triggered, right? So, awareness alone, that's the thing to understand actually, is that awareness alone is not enough, right? There's a certain amount of work that needs to be done in respect to understanding and mapping out the triggers in this respect as well. So, what do we have as a very small go-to tool, perhaps, if you can suggest that around the triggers?
So, for example, for me, if I were to share, and again, tune into our workshop because the workshop takes you through the entire thing. But if I were to just talk about emotional embodiment or resilience building in a particular moment of any given emotion that you may be experiencing, breathe.
Hmm.
We don't give breath work the kind of importance that it requires, you know? So if I ask you, Anne,
True.
hey, Anne, since the moment you woke up, how many breaths have you taken?
Mindfully.
Mindfully. But it's second nature, you know,
Hmm.
it's just like, oh, walking or
Hmm.
doing any other activity. But the moment we kind of sit back and say, okay, well, I am experiencing something that is not in my control, something that is overtaking my nervous system, something that is overtaking my emotions, my behaviors right now, take a breath. So a simple
Hmm.
box breathing technique, which is inhale and exhale. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth, hold it in your stomach. And like we discussed earlier, and we would be taking our clients, coaches, and members through the patterned breathwork system. But taking a second out and just breathing is does wonders to regulate and bring yourself to center.
Hmm. Very rightly marked there. I think one of the most easiest and the free things available, right there, right with us. And I think, yeah, every mental health professional, be it a high level coach, be it whoever, if you just look at their work, the stress on breathing is just, it's just, very different and very much focused on all the time that, breathe, 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 right? So the most Rabia, as we reflect further on the emotional intelligence, so we're touching a somatic intelligence also in our workshop, which makes it very unique as well, by the way, and lets it stand out from other emotional resilient building courses or something. So. I'm wondering right now, let's reflect a bit on how does the somatic intelligence surge up, or, how important is that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we kind of ignore the body's first response system, right? And I mean, how many times do we feel like we are really burdened with extra workload or we've stretched ourselves? But our body posture, if my shoulders are like caved in, it shows that I'm closed off, I'm caved in. So something like that. Or if I'm puffing, if I'm puffing too much, or if my muscles feel stressed, or if I'm blinking too much, or it could be as simple as a cramp. And you're constantly saying, oh, well, this persistent cramp is just not going away. I don't know what's wrong. This is your body recognizing that there are emotions that are trapped in your body, and you haven't been able to, like you said, acknowledge them, or address them. So the somatic awareness is expressed in the body before even our brain has registered that our body may be experiencing stress, our heart may be experiencing stress.
Very rightly marked there. And I think this is something a lot of people, just shoo it off that, whenever they always say that whenever these first signs they surge up, these symptoms, like a headache, perhaps, even like something as a headache, we normally take headaches as like, yeah, just take a Panadol and it's gonna just, but there's always something much more behind, any type of, like you said, a symptom that arises physically. And because emotions, they store themselves in our body in certain parts when not really dealt with in, the right way, or when not processed, let's say that, right? Because we have to process them. We just do not have to ignore them. We do not have to mark or tag a bad or a good with them. The whole thing to understand is that you need to understand and just really get the use of it. So somatic intelligence in that context is awareness of somatic intelligence, and then understanding where to locate. So a lot of people are even unaware of the fact that where exactly in their body, like even something just like stress also is stored, right? So the other day I was having a conversation with a client, and she said, yeah, I feel, we spoke about whatever the issue was. And of course, under confidentially, I do not share that. But I just shared the part where she was constantly saying that, when I asked her, because as coaches, also, we work with a lot of somatic work. And this is something we're bringing in the workshop as well as a part of it. So I asked her, where in your body, if I want to locate it with you, where exactly do you feel this exact emotion? And then, so first she just, squinted a bit and she was like, how do I feel it in my body? And then I told her to just close her eyes, and just go within and, have a feel of it. And just like, I let her reflect on it. She took good 5 minutes. And then she finally understood. She said, it's all here on my shoulders. She said, it's all here. So, and then she said herself, she reflected that now I realize why I'm having a stiff shoulder and neck from the past few months. And I was not able to get over that with every type of painkiller or, and things like that. So
Yeah.
those are ways, the somatic intelligence will come in handy if you become more aware of your body and your emotions in connection with all that, right?
Absolutely. And something that you had said, in our series of understanding the framework of pause, pivot, and power, is the mind-body disconnect. And that is something that is pivotal to understanding where emotional intelligence stems from. I remember and doing understanding, what comprises in the brain, and then how our nervous system and how everything is connected, interconnected. But when there is a disconnect, what happens? And so, a major part of our workshop, I hope, would be to be able to um, explore with our members what it is like to be very, very interconnected with our nervous system and our physiological framework, because that is what supplements and guides us through any kind of resilience building.
True that. Like in NLP, we say the mind and body are part of the same system. So you heal the mind, you heal the body, you heal the body, you heal the mind, right? Whatever you're
Absolutely.
feeding, the body also affects your mind, your thoughts as well. And in process, of course, it affects whatever is coming because that's all your internal state of processing everything that you are constantly taking in, using your mind filters and the lenses that we look at. Um, Rabia,
Absolutely.
we're touching a bit of neuroscience also in our workshop,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, how does that impact basically the emotional resilience part of someone who's working towards that?
Um, So, when we were talking about the somatic practices, right? That's more about the body based, what you're feeling physiologically in terms of awareness, healing, and even identification. But when we talk about neuroscience, and this is my understanding of it, and you know how uh, everybody has a different um, understanding, right? What I understand of it is how my brain translates and interprets the kind of stress signals I receive, the kind of emotional strength I give off, what is my adaptability, and what is my invention of my inner stability. You know, so as an individual, I'm constantly checking in of how I am rewiring and reframing myself, right? And what our brain does is the neuroplastic brain allows us to be able to reconquer. So we go from what we've learned, this was what we knew, how do we unlearn it and how do we relearn it, right? And I think we should save that bit, you know.
Definitely. We're keeping the pause, pivot, and the power framework as the ultimate tool that's going to be used. So, just adding a bit on that, my favorite part of the workshop, and that is CBT. So, how are we bringing CBT coaching inside this very workshop? Um, Rabia, I'm sure you, as a psychoanalyst as well, use CBT in your daily work as well. Let's just reflect quickly a bit on, how does that affect an emotional resilience building, in CBT, how does that impact?
Absolutely. Now, there are, not getting into the core concepts of it, right? Don't want to bore everybody with our psychological narrative over here. But if we were to just, it's an evidence-based methodology of how to focus on how feelings and behaviors are interconnected, right? And how, like you said, you work on the brain, it works on the body, and you work on the body, it works on the brain. The healing process is interconnected, and similarly, with CBT you can change or you can reframe your thoughts and your behaviors to benefit your emotions and your life experiences. So what it does, what we would like to sort of bring in is cognitive restructuring or behavioral patterns. What is it that you do habitually that you are unaware of, you would like to identify, and you would like to reframe it so that you are able to be more aware of yourself, of and replace your existing behaviors that you find challenging with healthy behaviors. So and once you do that, you are able to present a more emotionally strong and resilient individual.
Exactly, Rabia. CBT is a very powerful tool, science backed, right? But yes, there's a lot of homework in CBT that's involved. But these are very powerful techniques that we use, reframing the thought, which is quite close to what we do in NLP as well.
Yeah.
So yes, understanding that. CBT works on the neuroplasticity of a person, and neuroplasticity is basically just rewriting your story on a whole, right? So, somebody who knows what is neuroplasticity doesn't know as well. In simplest terms, it is just rewriting your narrative again and rewriting a new story, right? Because specifically, CBT is what works on the neuroplasticity bit of your brain, and with a lot of those exercise that we do in CBT, repetitions, the thought records that we use. So there's a lot of tools in CBT that support the neuroplasticity, and this is what we are bringing in our pause pivot power framework. The pause bit of it definitely reflects on what Rabia mentioned in the very start on the breathing. So whenever you are hit with an emotion, and specifically when we say hate, so it's a trigger situation, and in a trigger situation, your amygdala is hijacked, and it takes a back seat. The only way to regulate is the pause. When you pause, and neuroscience proves that it's a 90-second pause that's required for you to just be regulated, just the right amount back into your real self, right? Because when your amygdala is hijacked, mind you, that's not you, right? And I'll use something I used earlier in one of our conversations, that you're not a chemical, you're a human. So do not react and just create a response, right? But creating a response, definitely, it's a linear journey. It takes some work. And that's why we are bringing you the neurosomatic journey to emotional resilience. Thank you so much. Any questions? We're ready for it before we. And yes, stay tuned to our page while we announce the exact date of the workshop, where you'll able to get access to that. Inspiration Station is coming up with something really interesting, and for the first time will be a one of a kind product that we're launching. So yeah, thank you for joining in, and we are open to questions now. Please raise your electronic hand so we can take in any question, anything related to we had a conversation on right now. For me, for Rabia, appreciate your input. Yes, Smita.
Good evening, ladies, and thank you so much for the insight you have given us. Now, we are so looking forward to this workshop, and I'm sure so are the other listeners. I had this question from one of my clients recently, and I thought it was a good question to raise in this forum. So, what my client asked me was a very simple question. What is the difference between a healthy emotional resilience and suppression? Okay, so how do you differentiate if you're emotionally resilient or are you suppressing that emotion?
Mm,
I think Anne mentioned something about brushing emotions under the carpet, Smita. If I'm not mistaken, and suppression is when you know it, but you don't address it, right? So it's almost like it's a buildup. It's a continuous buildup. But is it going to benefit how you behave? No, because you're not regulating yourself. You're not giving yourself any kind of positive reinforcement. What you're doing is you're dumping it on the side and shutting it out. Now, when you keep putting that shut out in a spot, it is going to rise and brim over, and that is catastrophic because that's an eruption, and that may lead to behavioral eruption, that may lead to an emotional meltdown, that may lead to something that is extreme, as opposed to, like you said, how do you know that you're in a positive or healthy emotional resilient side, is when you are able to navigate and you're able to say, okay, well, this makes me feel bad, I'm not okay with this, but I'm learning to work through it. Do I need to say something out loud? Maybe not at this time, but I'm processing it for myself. So that internal processing is very, very important. Over to you, Anne.
Very rightly marked there, Rabi. I love the metaphor of eruption because, yes,
Mhm.
that is something how. So, like I shared Sigmund Freud's quotation earlier, that unhealthy emotions are, they never die. They are just, they just are suppressed and will always show up in some uglier way, right? So, when we say that, why is it? Because, it will. So, you can never say, so, yes, a lot of us are masters in masking, right? We become masters in masking. That's the sad part of our stories that we become masters in masking, but not for long. Somatically, it will surge up someday in the form of a pain, in the form of, any type of pain, in the form of any type of health issue for that matter. There have been researches on that. Cancer is something that develops out of suppressed emotions as well, unfortunately. So, yes, suppressing those emotions for a very long time will surface in one way or the other. And I feel the only indication that you can have for yourself as a person is that how are you emotionally, how are you actually emotionally balanced, or how are you just masking it, or, shoving it off under the carpet, is that what's the type of self talk when you are on your own, right? When you're on your own, what is the self talk that goes in your head? Is it a constant remorse? Is it a constant, frustration, anxiety? Because then that means you're actually suppressing something and you're not facing something that's supposed to be addressed, be it at personal level, be it at professional level. But there's for sure something that's being not addressed that creates that anxiety and frustration. And then again, in many cases, specifically for females, they tend to be quiet due to status quo, or those sorts of things. But then again, it's very important to understand that this will resurface in one way or the other. Like Rabia, you very rightly said, eruption, right? So one way or the other, it's a blowout, it's a nervous breakdown. In many cases, people with nervous breakdown are, it does not happen overnight, right? That's the thing to understand. Nothing happens overnight. It's always an accumulation of several things that has happened in the back.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions? It looks like we were quite elaborative and quite explanatory in what we spoke about today, and hence we do not have any questions.
Samaya has a question, Anne.
Oh, okay. Yes, Sumaya,
Not
please
so
go ahead.
soon.
Hi, Anne. Hi, Rabia. Thank you so much for the amazing presentation. Hi, VP. Uh, just I'm going to try and frame this question because it's a thought, I would say, that has come up, and I'm just going to try and frame it as a question, and I hope I bring clarity to that. So, whenever there is emotional resilience being spoken, uh, it is usually it emphasizes traits like positive thinking, a lot of, like you said, emotional balance, grit for that matter. Uh, but from the way I have, like there are researchers and what I've studied as well, there's a lot of emotional resilience that is shaped by other factors like maybe early attachment patterns, or maybe a vagal tone or that is involved over there, or for that matter, even to an extent, some amount of uh, awareness, self-awareness, that is involved there when it comes to resilience. So how can someone who is beginning their journey, or how can we, when we, or if this is going to be covered in your course, if I want like to understand, that someone who's coaching a client, bring these factors and integrate them with the other models that is being spoken about, cognitive behavioral therapy and others for that matter.
Thank you for that, Sumaya. Definitely, that is something. Our all our products at Inspiration Station and these coming series specifically, which are being brought to you under Knowledge Bites, all of these have been curated, keeping in mind that we have a bigger part of the community as coaches, and this will greatly benefit the coaches. So, yes, we will have frameworks that you, as a coach, may be able to, apply them in your work and
Mm.
support others as well. Like you said, definitely these are things we learn also early on in life as well, through life experience as well. So like we were saying earlier, life forces you to become resilient sometimes, right? Even though if you're
Yeah.
not constructed that way, I would say you're not
Yeah.
born with it, but then life forces you to become very resilient at points. But yes, to support someone, you definitely need a bit of tools. So yes, the CBT tools, the somatic intelligence tools, and the neuroscience tools that we are talking about will be definitely provided within the workshop. So yes,
All right.
I
Thank
hope
you
I
And
so
I
much.
answered
also
what you asked.
Yeah.
I also think, Sumaya, one of the things that, and really put it out there well, what we would be catering to in the workshop, but also the coaches that have been partnered together bring a diverse kind of background, right? So,
Mm.
Anne brings a different set of skill set. I bring a different set of skill set, and that is the beauty of the workshop trainers who would be kind of bringing in their skill sets and taking you
That is
through
amazing.
that,
Yeah,
right?
that's really
But
amazing,
there,
and it's a great initiative. My question was actually based on emotional attachment patterns, that kids have,
yeah,
and somewhere that then pushes against the resilience that needs to be built. So, for someone who's not very resilient, would have some history. So I was aiming at that, and I'm sure the diverse background of the coaches here is going to cater to. And I wanted to know if those things can be integrated into the current practices of CBT and everything else that we are putting out, positive psychology for that matter.
absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah,
Sumaya, because what you're
yeah.
talking about is, and let me get this right. You
Mhm.
are saying that so if an adult has an early attachment or an
Mm.
attachment
Child, yeah,
situation,
and yes.
how they would work with perhaps children clients or their own children. It's about equipping yourself, learning,
Mm,
and being open to learn, right?
mm,
So
mm,
if you do feel like you are avoidant, you have avoidant attachment issues and you've kind of
mm.
identified it, then work through the process. And that is what some of the, like the parenting workshop, it would take you through that, or the resilience workshop would allow you to open that
Yeah,
box with a lot of it coming out of it, and then be able to systematically solve it practically.
yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Very well said.
We have a question in the chat. So Mahnam has asked, that's a pretty name by the way. If someone is sleeping too much, does that have any linkage to their emotions? And if they're still tired, no matter how much sleep they get?
Psychologist in the house.
Psychologist to a psychologist, yes. Definitely. So yes, definitely. We do have proofs and studies that say that people who are, so they say generally also in a lot of terms that people who sleep a lot are very sad at heart or something, and this is science backed behind there. If somebody, yes, sleeps too much, they have a lot of cortisol in their body, which is your stress hormone, right? And depression, anxiety, general stress also on a daily basis produces that cortisol in your body, which tends to make it tends to make the body heavier. Also, it surges up in form of certain, somatic ways as well. So, in forms of pain, weight gain, by the way, is one of the highly prominent post effects of cortisol, specifically in women, because we struggle with a lot of hormones in our body. So, we have a constant fight of the hormones going on inside, and hence cortisol in women, highly affects them. I think. Um, you know, cortisol levels also can be really managed well with a lot of, the exercises that we will be bringing in the workshop. Rabia, what do you have to say about that?
I think that's a great question. But what I would also say is that um, I- it depends if you're asking it in a coach's capacity or you're asking it as a coachee capacity, right? So if you're asking it as a from a coach's capacity, if your client is coming in and saying that I'm sleeping too much and fix it, help me fix it, uh, to be able to kind of go through a proper questioning. Are you equipped to help your client solve that or help your coachee solve that? And if not, refer them on to a sleep coach or a somebody who is going to take them through, whether it's a medical intervention, whether it's a psychotherapeutic intervention. So be able to know what you are working with. Do not overextend your capacity is something that I did want to add in over here.
Thank you for that highlight as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. If you do not have any questions further, yes, this is a bye bye for us for today. Do join us tomorrow, same time, same time, different coaches and a different product launch. Just a note before we end that the workshop that we are coming up with is for every coach, trainer, leader, and even a human who carries a set of emotions within them, right? And who wishes to, come out of the reactive loops and build some more emotional strength from inside out. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great evening. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye
Thank you,
bye.
Ravi.
Thank you.